Yat and welcome to Four Directions of Wellness. I am Roberta Diswood. Twilpahanishla, Sisakani Bashichin, Nalkaidene Dashache, Hanani Dashanella. In 2016, a study funded by the National Institute of Justice shows that Native American women and men suffer violence at very high rates. It concluded that 4 in 5 Native American women and men have experienced violence in their lifetime. In today's show, we will learn about the different types of violence and focus our attention on the high rate of sexual violence against women. My guest today is Morgan Farley, a health technician with the Domestic Violence Prevention Program at Northern Navajo Medical Center. Our interview is being recorded remotely for safety during the coronavirus pandemic. Hi, Morgan. Thank you for joining me remotely. Go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Hi, Roberta. My name is Morgan Farley. Sitnajini Nishle, Bidani Bashichin, Honagahni Dashache, Adok Lizaflan Dashanele. Thank you for having me here today to speak with you.
Thank you, Morgan. 4 in 5 Native American women and men have experienced violence in their lifetime. What types of violence is the NIJ study talking about?
So the NIJ study is talking about 4 different types of violence. These were the questions that they had asked the participants. The first one is going to be sexual violence, which includes any type of unwanted sexual contact between 2 people. The next is going to be physical violence. So this is what we most commonly think about when talking about domestic violence. So this is any type of physical violence against another person by an intimate partner. The next type of violence is going to be stalking. So this includes when a perpetrator is following or sending text messages to the victim, and this is something that happens during multiple occurrences. And lastly, the NIJ study also talks about psychological aggression, and psychological aggression includes both expressive aggression and coercive control. So if a partner is being very emotionally abusive to their partner, or as well as controlling certain parts of their life.
Okay. And so can you give me some examples of these types of violence?
For physical violence, this is what we most commonly think about when we talk about domestic violence. And so for physical violence, this includes things like being hit, slapped, kicked, or punched by an intimate partner. This also can include more severe types of violence, such as being hit with something heavy or hard in the head. Also, having a gun or a knife pulled on you. Other things like being choked or strangled by your partner, as well as if you're being beaten or burned by your intimate partner. For stalking, this can look like if a partner is leaving you multiple unwanted calls or text messages on your phone. Also showing up at your workplace or your school or maybe at your house without being invited by you. Also, if they're leaving you unwanted gifts that you did not ask for. Those are just a couple of different examples of stalking. As far as psychological aggression, I did talk about expressive aggression, and this includes when a partner acts very angry towards you. They might be making threats towards you or your family members. They might also be putting you or making you feel like you're being put in danger. As far as coercive control, this can look like when a partner is controlling who you see, if they're isolating you away from family members or from friends, if they're controlling things about your life, such as what you wear, where you're going, things like that. That's a pretty good example of what coercive control looks like. As far as sexual violence, it is any type of unwanted sexual contact. So most often it's going to be any unwanted forced penetration, or also known as rape. This also includes if the rape is done when you are under the influence of drugs or alcohol. We do know that this can hinder your decision-making skills and you're not able to fully give the other person consent. Sexual violence also can include unwanted touching and kissing from someone who you do not want to do those things to you. So the main thing to remember about sexual violence is that it's any type of sexual contact that you do not want or that you do not give consent to happening.
Your last example was on sexual violence against women. Let's talk more about that. The NIJ study shows that 56% of Native American women have experienced sexual violence. How many sexual assault cases have been reported locally?
So locally, the numbers that we do have are from 2019, and here at Northern Navajo Medical Center, we do have the option for people who do get sexually assaulted to complete a sexual assault exam. So in 2019, we had about 14 exams done for the whole year of 2019. And these exams are done by nurses who come from Sexual Assault Services of Northwest New Mexico in Farmington. Some more numbers that we do have from Sexual Assault Services in Farmington. They have seen about a total of 97 cases for the year of 2019. And these cases are for victims who identified as Navajo or as any other tribe. And these 97 cases make up about 2/3 of their overall caseload that they saw in 2019.
I think it's important to learn what is a violent sexual act. Can you define sexual violence?
Yes, so sexual violence can happen to anyone at any time. Unfortunately, anyone can be a perpetrator of sexual violence. Usually, we might think that sexual violence is happening between a victim and someone who is a stranger to them, but most often that is not the case. So usually when a victim does suffer sexual violence, it is from someone that they know already. So this can be either a friend, a family member, or even an intimate partner. Also, both men and women can be perpetrators of sexual violence. So we do usually think that women are the ones who are being abused with sexual violence, but men are also victims of sexual violence as well. So it's important for us to remember that when we are helping victims and when we are reaching out to loved ones who we might think are being abused, it's important to believe both men and women if they do speak up about being sexually abused.
Well, thank you, Morgan, for pointing that out because it really is something to keep in mind. I would like to end this show with resources for those that might be in a violent relationship or know someone who needs help. Where can victims of violence turn for help?
Okay, so if you do happen to be a victim of violence or if you know someone who is in that situation, there are a few different resources available to you here in Shiprock, especially at Northern Navajo Medical Center. So as I mentioned before, at Northern Navajo Medical Center, we do have sexual assault nurse exams available to victims of sexual assault. And victims can access these exams by going through the ER or as well as speaking up the next time they see one of their healthcare providers. As long as you let them know that you did experience some type of sexual assault, they should be able to offer you one of these sexual assault exams. And these exams are done in-house at Northern Navajo Medical Center, and it is something that is done confidentially. And you do have the option about what you do and do not want to do in these exams. Another service that is available to victims is the Women's Shelter here in Shiprock. They do have a 24/7 hotline available for anyone who is a victim of domestic violence. They are able to house families over there and provide them a safe place to stay while they are trying to escape their perpetrator. Another thing that is available for victims of both domestic and sexual assault is mental health services here at Northern Navajo Medical Center.
Are there resources our patients can use that are in our county?
Yes, so as I had mentioned before, we do work closely with Sexual Assault Services of Northwest New Mexico. They are located in Farmington as well as in Gallup area, and they provide a lot of services for victims of sexual assault. So they do provide the sexual assault exams that I mentioned that are offered here at Northern Navajo Medical Center. They also offer those same exams in their Farmington office as well. They do also offer counseling services as well as other advocate services for victims of sexual assault. So they are definitely a good resource to use if you do wish to receive services. Another place in Farmington is Family Crisis Center, and they provide advocacy services as well, kind of the same thing with counseling and they would be another good resource to look for as well.
Okay. And finally, what are some of the national resources that are available?
So nationally, we do have some resources that are available to us. The first one I want to talk about specifically is for the Native American population, which is something that I think is really, really unique and helpful to us as Native people. This is called the Strong Hearts Native Helpline, and it's a 24/7 helpline that you can access through a phone call, through text messaging, or through an online chat. And they do have advocates available to talk to people who are victims of either sexual assault or domestic violence. So I highly recommend using their services because they are culturally tailored to provide services to Native American victims. A couple other national resources are the National Hotline for Domestic Violence, as well as the National Sexual Assault Telephone Hotline. So both of these hotlines are available 24/7 nationally. I do believe you can also online chat and text with them as well. So there's a lot of different options for victims who might not feel comfortable talking to someone in person. Maybe text messaging or talking on the phone is a lot more comfortable and safe for them. So those options are available for you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Morgan, for joining us. I know we are planning another show that will further explain the sexual assault services here at Northern Navajo Medical Center. This has been 4 Directions of Wellness. Hagonet.